All right, welcome back to another episode video thing of Dear Dads. I am your one and only host, Jonathan Grzybowski, and we're talking today about month 2 of Little Miss Madeline. At the time of recording, she just turned month 5 months, so I now have a 5-month-old, and reflecting back on 2 months, on the 2-month time frame. And I feel like if I didn't say it, because I don't really review or edit a lot of the things that were once done, that were done in the past. But for month 2 is I think is a continuation of survival as a father. Month 1 is just straight up beautiful disaster. It's like a beautiful disaster, so to speak. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what's going on. You're just trying to survive. You're just trying to figure it out. And eventually you figure it out. And you make mistakes and you have wins. And I would say in the takeaway, the biggest takeaway for me in the first month and then the second month is learning the cues of the baby or of the child. And one of those cues in particular was that my wife and I did, I think, really well, was actually feeding Madeline. And we didn't necessarily know it at the time or understand it, but during month 2 we kind of like overfed to a degree, and we were actually getting some pretty good naps, or at least very good like nighttime sleep, at least in the tail end of the second. But it's kind of funny because like on the first month it's like, oh, it is it going to get better, and then it does get better. And then obviously month 5, where we're at now at the time of recording, it gets even better than that. And I'll explain all that in future episode. But for month 2, I think it's just really enjoying the moment. And I have some pictures during this time. It was actually Halloween. So we took Madeline out for Halloween for the first time. Of course, she didn't obviously eat candy. We took her on some more trips. My wife and I were able to go on an outdoor date for the first time. We went with Emily's parents, which were gracious enough, and the weather was absolutely perfect. So we went to a brewery. In addition to that, we also, I think, celebrated a little bit more. So, for example, and one of the things that I recommend for all relationships is to make sure that you date your spouse. Date your spouse as much as possible. It could be a small win, it could be an anniversary, it could be a promotion, it could just be a good day. And I remember specifically having a really good day, and I'll kind of share this photo. Hopefully it more or less shows. But it's just me drinking a glass of wine, and Madeline drinking a bottle. And I just think that like those small little things are what really allowed us, and as a relationship standpoint, continue to stay together, but at the same time also managing the stress and knowing that you are in this together as a team. I will say from a relationship standpoint, my wife and I were kind of going, not necessarily arguing or bickering, but definitely going back and forth, and it was a very rather trying time for the two of us to kind of understand each other's roles and supporting the roles. As a father, you can't provide much at all. You're there for moral support for your partner than you are really for anything else. Sure, you can help with small things like baby related things like cleaning and diaper changes and holding and things like that. But in terms of nutrition, in terms of your value, you're literally no value at all, which is fine, of course, because you will have, as a dad, I hope at least, will have more of a benefit than just taking care. But month 2, I would say, as a father, the best thing that you could do is support your partner. So whether that's getting water, and of course that's said in a lot of videos that you see online, but I think it actually is very true. Getting water, making sure that your partner is fed, making sure that there's food on the table, Make sure that your dog goes on walks. Make sure that um, I just the emotional care, because your partner is trying to figure themselves out after giving birth, and at the same time you're trying to figure yourself out as a father. And so my biggest thing is just like ask questions and communicate as best as you possibly can. I've always been a historically bad communicator, but I really feel like I'm month 2 at least. I'm starting to understand what are the essentials here, right? What are the things that are beneficial? Honestly, not only from a relationship standpoint and a father standpoint, but also a life standpoint. Do I have to take this meeting for work? Do I have to answer this phone call? Do I have to send this message on Slack? And the short answer to that question is the only things that matter are you, your partner, and your baby. And I just want to make sure that I go on that small tangent to make sure that everybody else is aware of those same things. If you are listening to this and you give a crap and you want to have a kid, or you have a kid right now and you're still trying to figure it out, I hope that that small piece of advice goes a long way. As I scroll through some of the pictures, I will say being tired is definitely prevalent, but month 2, I feel like you're slowly starting to see a little bit of an interaction. I will say there's not a lot of interaction in month 2. I think you can start sort of see it. I will say that we got at least 1 or 2 laughs, or at least 1 or 2 smiles. I'm sure we got a lot more, but I don't really remember at this point. But yeah, I would say like the first 1 to 4 months are primarily about the two of you figuring it out. And then once you go beyond that point, I think that's where the real fun begins, especially with where I am now. And it's kind of interesting. A friend of ours was talking. We were talking, and they're trying to reminisce about some of the things that were going on in the early days of their child, and their kid is a little bit older, and they couldn't quite remember everything. And even as like when I talked to my parents, my dad and my parent-in-law, my mother and father-in-law, there were a lot of times where like they themselves couldn't remember some of the things that were happening when they had their kids, or when my dad was taking care of me. And it's interesting to see, it's fun to see them reliving that all over again. But at the same time, I found myself getting, I wouldn't say frustrated, but confused, because it's like, man, how can you not remember this? How can you not remember the sleepless nights? And how do you not remember the interactions that you had at month 1, month 2, month 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be? And then now looking back a little bit further ahead and recording this in advance, I can kind of empathize and understand that a little bit better. They're right. Like, it goes by so fast. They grow up so fast. Milestones are achieved so fast that you just don't quite remember the heartache and the hard moments, and you really just focus on those beautiful moments. A couple of other things too that my wife and I have been really huge sticklers on that I just have written down is the importance of tummy time. From the very beginning, we made a point to ensure that we gave as much tummy time as possible. And as you can kind of see, Madeline very early on, whether it be a mistake or not, I'll just record that one more time, rewind it back, was actually able to spin at or at least fall down month 2. And again, there's a very strong chance that it was just done by mistake, because at this point she's not the best roller on tummy time. But I really want to make it a point to say that do as much tummy time as possible. Make sure that you are active as possible. Go on walks any chance that you can get. Do not be afraid to go outside. Do not be afraid to take your child into new and random areas, because at the end of the day, you have to live your life to the best of your ability. Once my mom passed away, my perspective, I'd say, on time changed quite differently. I have an appreciation towards time, and seeing that my first child went from basically 0 to 2 months in the blink of an eye, it really just puts things into perspective of what is really important, what really matters. And to me, it wasn't always this way, especially growing a business where it's primarily about yourself. I've never truly realized how important family is to me, from not only being married but also having my first child. And I'm really excited to be able to explore that even further. So that's episode 3. I think I'll end there and just tell Madeline and Emily how much I love them and how much it's been so much fun seeing, Madeline grow up from this to the most beautiful and cutest giraffe of all time. And I cannot wait for you to hear more about month 4, month 5, month 6, etc., etc. I'd be remiss if I didn't do this one thing. Apparently, I scratched my nose really loud, and I just had to give a quick shout out to my one and only fan at this point. Thanks for watching. See you later.